and welcome to Travel Explore Celebrate Live. I'm really happy and excited to welcome Ryna Sequeira back to Travel Explore Celebrate Live. Neil is taking a break this week, but I'm really happy to have Ryna here. Hi Ryna and welcome back.
Hi, Sunila. Thank you so much for having me back.
Ryna, it's always a pleasure to talk about Australia and especially about Queensland. And I know that we've done a show earlier, so for our viewers and our listeners, Ryna's already been here and you've spoken about the adventure aspect of Queensland and things that we can do there, right? And I thought it would be great to just pick up on Queensland again because right now, I think as Indians, we're really spoiled for choice. We have so much to do, so many places to visit. And of course, Australia is on the top of the list for a lot of people. And within that, Queensland. So, Raina, what do you think? Shall we speak about the, first time travel to Queensland, first time travel to Australia? And again, there are so many things that you can do only in Australia and only in Queensland. So I thought it would be great to touch upon that. What do you think?
I think that's a great idea. Because I think in the last podcast we covered, quite extensively all the experiences. I think more from my perspective and what I've done. So now let's talk about what's new, what exactly, like you said, what can be done only in Queensland, and from a first-timer perspective, what they should be doing in Queensland when they travel to Australia.
That's great. Rana, when was the last time you visited Queensland?
Right in November. So
Wow.
just
Okay,
2 months
that's
ago,
really
literally.
recent.
Yeah, very recent. And it was my first trip back after the pandemic. So I think it was a great eye opener again for me because quite a few things have changed, in terms of just the way things are, new experiences that have come up. Just it was just wonderful to be back in Australia and in Queensland at that time. And yeah, we had a great trip. So yeah, there's so much new stuff that we did.
That made me think because we've traveled actually to Queensland a few times together.
Yes, correct.
And I was trying to recollect when was it that we went there last because all I remember is all the things that we did because that's something that you cannot forget. But I just couldn't remember when, and I had to actually go back into my phone
Yeah.
and look at the album and then
Yeah.
plot out when was. Actually, I looked it up
Correct.
on Facebook, and that's
Correct.
another use of posting things
Yeah,
on
yeah.
social media so you don't forget. And I have this memory of clear blue waters, all shades of blue that you can see, all shades of green that we can see, and just stunning white beaches. So I don't think anything's changed. If at all,
Nothing
probably
has
it's changed for
changed.
the
No,
better,
no,
right?
nothing has changed.
Raina, so they say that Queensland is a great mix of reef, rainforest, beaches, and islands. And as a first timer who's going to Queensland, first of all, it's choosing which country to go to. After that, you choose Australia, which
Yeah.
in itself is a continent
Correct.
and an island.
Correct.
And the image that comes to mind is of these beautiful beaches, the beautiful waters, and everything. So, when you have to choose an island to go to, I mean, we have Hayman and Hamilton, the Whitsundays. We have so many different islands out there, Fitzroy Island, Lady Elliot Island. How do you choose which island to go to, and what would be your choice like?
Okay, so talking about traveling from a first timer's perspective, I would first go to a Gold Coast firstly because it is the theme park capital of Australia. It's everyone loves Gold Coast, so it's a lot of fun. It caters to all age groups, which is great. Which generally, especially when you're going on a group tour, it's a multi-gen travel segment. So people of all age groups can actually do different things and all together as well and have a great time. So Gold Coast would definitely be my first choice. Then Brisbane, because it's so close by to Gold Coast and you are coming in on an international flight anyway into Brisbane, definitely stay a night or two in Brisbane and explore Brisbane. Cairns, a must do because you cannot come to Australia or to Queensland and not do the Great Barrier Reef. And Cairns is the gateway to the Great Barrier Reef. So from a first timer perspective, I would highly recommend you do these destinations. And then of course, given now you're getting a longer visa, a 3-year visa, mostly people are getting that, which is great. Tourists can actually come back to Australia now and do a second or a third visit. Especially in the 3 years, you would definitely do that. So that gives you an opportunity to then go wider and do the Whitsundays, that's Hamilton, Hayman, go down to Sunshine Coast, see that area, go and explore new regions like Port Douglas and Palm Cove and Daintree. So you can come back and do, on a wider scale, cover more of Queensland.
Raina, what you're saying is really interesting because the number of things that you've listed, I mean, 2 and 3 days are not enough to do all of
at
this. So,
all.
what would you say is a good time frame to spend in Queensland? And sometimes I think you're always confused because you want to see as much as you can, but you also have to bear in mind that look, I have other destinations to go to too. But what would be an ideal stay in Queensland?
So if you're doing Gold Coast, Brisbane, Cairns, I would say a minimum of 6 to 7 nights is what you need to even like cover the
Yes.
basics,
Yeah.
which you do obviously on your tours as well, which is great. But obviously that's never enough. You need more time, and also it depends on how you want to pace your holiday. If you want to have a really action-packed holiday, do something new every day or cover every, from morning to night you're doing an experience, then you need more time. So, or if you want to just do, keep it relaxed or do a mix of both, you can, pace your holiday based on
Yeah, I think
your
a lot of
preference.
people often forget how big Australia is and how big Queensland is, because even to travel within Queensland, it's better to always take a flight, right? You can't really drive through the entire coast, can you?
You actually can if you have enough days. So
Correct.
if you can actually do the drive from Brisbane right up to Cairns as well, but you need time obviously for that. And just to
And take
highlight,
a few stops on the
yeah,
way, right?
like
You would
can
have
stop.
to stay overnight on the
Exactly,
way.
yeah, you stop over. You obviously see the region that you're stopping over, not just do an overnighter and drive further. You explore different regions. And actually, we have 5 international airports in Queensland. So I think that gives you the whole
Yes.
scale of how big Queensland is and how accessible as well. I think that's very important to touch on the accessibility, because you can actually fly to different places because you're so time constrained. Like you have the option to, take a short flight, like a 1.5 hour flight or a 1 hour flight to different regions within Queensland as well. And, saves you on time and you can see
I think that's a great idea. I would say a minimum of 5 nights
Yeah.
is something you should look at. Or if you have shortened than that, then don't try to do everything, but
Yes.
maybe choose the first most
Yeah,
important destination.
yeah. Your
Maybe
bucket
Gold
list.
Coast,
Yeah.
take it off your bucket list,
Yeah,
come back and do
absolutely. Yeah,
the other places afterwards, right? Ryna, you mentioned something about Gold Coast and families, and how
Yeah.
much fun that
Yeah,
families
yeah.
have. And we all know that Gold Coast is popular. It's the playground of Australia, so to say. So we see a lot of theme parks there. But say someone's not really interested in theme parks, especially for families, what are the other things you would suggest to do there?
So I would suggest do a bunch of beach experiences, because I see that
Yes.
Indians love going to a beach destination. They love an ocean view room.
Yeah.
But I don't see them actually going on the beach and doing anything. Max they'll go and probably dip their feet in the water and that's it. Like, and you're on a beach in Australia, like you have to make use of that opportunity. So the best way to do it would be probably to do a learn to surf lesson. So the whole family can get together, do a private lesson. It's super fun. You don't need to be a pro swimmer. Just have fun with in the water with the surfboard. And probably at the end of it, you will learn to surf as well. It's just a fun experience to do. Then you have other soft adventure activities like hot air ballooning, jet boating. You can go do an indoor skydiving, which is, it caters to all age groups. You have Sky Point Adventure Climb again, and Sky Point Deck that you can visit as a family. So there are lots of things. You could go shopping. There's lots of stuff that you can do as a family together, which is not theme park focused.
I know surfing sounds like so much fun, and it
it
seems so like, will I be able to do it? And actually, when you get there, you
Yeah.
realize it's not even about learning, it's
Yeah,
about
it's
having
the fun.
fun.
Yeah,
You
it's
don't
actually
need
about
to
fun.
have any
Yeah.
prior experience.
Not
You
at
can
all.
just go out there,
Yeah.
go to the beaches, and really
Yeah,
have a lot of fun and have some cool photos as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Ryna, I remember the last trip. In fact, when we were there in Queensland, one of the other fun experiences that we did was feeding crocodiles. And I don't think
I
there are
remember
many
that.
places in the world
Yeah,
that you can do that.
yeah.
And you feel scared. But I
Yeah.
remember having children and they were so excited to be able to feed
Absolutely.
crocodiles, right? So let's talk a little bit about the animals, because animals in Australia are really unique and native to
Correct,
the land.
yeah.
And there's no better example than Queensland to really promote that and
Absolutely,
show that in its best
Yeah.
way. So, are there some few places that you could recommend that people could go to and have some amazing animal adventures or experiences?
Honestly, Sunila, there are heaps of like wildlife sanctuaries and animal experiences that you can have, not just in like a zoo or a sanctuary, but also in the wild. So I think we'll touch upon the wild bit in a bit, but there's one of the most unique ones would be Australia Zoo, because it is one of a kind in Australia and in the world. It is the home to our crocodile hunter Steve Irwin, the late Steve Irwin, and his family has so beautifully, taken that legacy forward. And actually, like, the zoo is a once in a lifetime experience for sure. And it's not just about the Australian animals; it's also about they have the African safari, the Asian, habitat as well, which is great. So it gives you a more wholesome zoo experience, and the whole conservation piece behind it. I think that's very important to touch upon, because they are so passionate about conservation, and that's the whole idea behind Australia Zoo. And now they've actually introduced the Croc Hunter Lodge, where you can actually stay right there on the premises as well and have that access. They have only 8 cabins right now, which are perfect for families. Go there, stay. They're 2-bedroom cabins. They can stay as a family and then have that access to Australia Zoo. Again, only 45 minutes from Brisbane. So Australia Zoo would be a highlight. The one that you were talking about was Hartley's Crocodile Adventures, where we went and did a beautiful crocodile cruise. And I've probably never seen a crocodile so up close, jumping up into the water, and it was so amazing. And then I remember feeding the crocodile, and I almost felt like I was going to be like pulled in, but it was such an amazing. It was actually a thrill.
And you just don't know where the crocodile's hiding, right?
Yeah,
you don't know.
They're so good at camouflage.
They're so well camouflaged, but when they hand over the food to you,
They
they're
just
amazing.
pop
The
up.
guides are just amazing. They know exactly where they're going to be, and even if it's in front of your eyes, you can't really see it. And so sometimes it's
I still
just
remember
crazy.
the strength of the crocodile pulling that chicken off that stick. I will never forget that. But it was such a cool experience to do. Then you also have Currumbin Wildlife Sanctuary back on the Gold Coast, which is a great, again, a big piece on conservation that they are so passionate about. You can do a koala cuddle in Queensland, feed the kangaroos, meet the wombats, Tasmanian devils, see the cassowaries, all very native Australian animals. And obviously, the other ones that we were going to talk about was the wild ones, which is where you can go on to Tangalooma Island Resort and feed wild dolphins. That is quite unique. They come every day, literally at 6 o'clock in the evening. They are there for their food, and guests get to feed them, which is quite amazing. The turtles the turtle hatching season that happens from Jan to March, in southern Great Barrier Reef. That's something that's so unique, and that you can come and actually experience and see those beautiful little turtles coming out, the baby turtles getting out and going back into the water, and they come back later to lay their eggs on the same beaches, which is amazing. So the whales, the whale watching that we spoke about a lot on the last podcast, that's another very unique experience that you can do. So lots of wildlife experiences to do in
No, I completely agree with you, Ryna. And I remember the last time I was there, I actually had my scuba dive was at the Great Barrier Reef. It was also on the same trip that we were there. And it's not just animals on land, but also on the water and the marine life. And I don't know, I think you cannot explain it in words till you really experience it, because it's something it really is out of this world. To be able to go down there, and then you just feel one with nature. And you're seeing all the marine life around you, the corals, is just stunning. Which actually, I was reminded by the photos that the day I did scuba diving was also the day that early morning we took the hot air balloon. So I think we started something like 4
in the morning.
And then we went in there. And in fact, on that very trip, we also had the chance to do the helicopter ride over the Great Barrier Reef. And I think hot air ballooning, helicopter rides, especially flying over Hart Reef Island, these are some amazing experiences for everyone, but especially for those who are planning their honeymoon or planning a really romantic holiday. Because I think it's a very special time that probably where it's just the two of you and your partner out there. So can we talk a little bit more on that? That what would be the perfect experiences to build in this beautiful romantic holiday? Because we know we can even be alone on an island if you want to in Queensland, right? So let's talk about that.
So I think the most romantic place in Queensland would be the Whitsundays, because of the Hart Reef. The Hart Reef is a must do when you're on a honeymoon. You want to fly over the Hart Reef. And now, in fact, if you're staying at Qualia, which is on Hamilton Island, which is also a luxury lodge of Australia, you can go right as close as possible to the Hart Reef than any other experience. And it's called Journey to the Heart. So that's very unique, very exclusive. Only 6 people fly on a helicopter, do a beautiful aerial tour, and then land on the pontoon, which is very close to the Hart Reef. And it's a really small pontoon, and then they take you out to snorkel by the heart reef or close to the heart reef, which is really unique again. And that's something that a honeymooner must do. A private picnic on a sandy cay. I know I always say sandy cays are kind of done to death in the pandemic because everyone's doing a private picnic on a sandy cay. But what makes it unique is you're not doing it in the Great Barrier Reef anywhere else, right? So here you are doing it on the Great Barrier Reef, flying in a helicopter, having a beautiful aerial view of the Great Barrier Reef, and then landing on a sandy cay and doing a beautiful picnic. So that's something that is again a honeymooner bucket list item, and a vintage picnic. Actually, that's something I personally love because it's so. Instead of doing a regular dining experience, like they pick a really nice spot. Whether it's by the river in Brisbane or on by the beach or the Broadwater in Gold Coast. They do one up in Maleni Botanical Gardens in Sunshine Coast as well, and you have a really beautiful picnic set up, which is so nice. It's a gourmet picnic, so it's not too heavy food. You just get to really enjoy yourself, like as a couple as well.
And you can do this just for
you can
couple,
do it for
like
two
just for
people.
Two of you
You can do it for 2 to 200.
Wow.
So it can actually be done. Like,
And
so
that
it can be really private.
exclusive.
Yeah, it can be really exclusive. Great for proposals, honeymooners, couples who just want to have something, special, a great surprise as well for your partner. Like if you don't want to keep one partner in the dark.
For a birthday or an anniversary as well, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And they make sure the messages are really personalized and the themes are great. So that's another thing that I would really highly recommend for honeymooners. Otherwise,
there's so much to do. Yeah. But Ryna, I remember one of the best memories I have of Queensland is, it's actually related to something you said sometime back, that people go to the beach, but they don't get into the water. And we just keep saying the water's so beautiful here, the coast is amazing, the water's so pretty. But unless you really, really get into the water and experience it, you don't realize how beautiful it is. And I had this experience when we went sailing. So for me, sailing is something that really calms me down completely. And I never felt more relaxed and refreshed as I have after a sailing experience. And the one I'm talking about is which was very surprising, but one of my favorite places in Queensland, and that is Port Douglas. Because that's something I think you must do and you must go. So let's talk a little bit about Port Douglas. How do you reach there? It's not too far from Cairns, is it? Like it's just an hour or so.
It's a 45-minute drive. Yeah.
And would you recommend staying there, or would you recommend doing it as a day trip? And what else can you do there?
So again, in terms of how many days you have to spare in Cairns, I would say if you are short on time, you do a day trip up to Port Douglas. But if you do have the time, I highly recommend picking up a car and driving along. It's called the Great Barrier Reef Drive because you have the Great Barrier Reef on one side and you have the beautiful rainforest on the other side. It's absolutely stunning, only 45 minutes. And it's a highway, so there are not too many cars, no traffic signals. It's just the most blissful drive to do, really. And you get to Port Douglas. Again, it's a very quaint town. I call it the Monaco of Australia. It's very nice. It's where the rich and famous holiday in Australia, and it's really nice and laid back, which is what you want on a holiday, really. Have a lovely lunch there, do the sailing experience that you did with Sail Away Port Douglas. Go up to Mossman, another massive favorite of mine. I know you always hear me talk about it. And do a nice Dreamtime walk there. Stay at Silky Oaks Lodge. That's another beautiful luxury lodge of Australia. They reopened last year with 40 new cabins, tree houses, and they're absolutely stunning eco luxury that you can access. And it's nowhere else in the world can you stay in the Mossman Gorge in the Daintree Rainforest. So again, very unique as an experience. So,
and then you have the best of the rainforest
and
the beaches and the reef, everything
yeah.
together. Like you said, I think everything's so accessible and so close by that it's really amazing. You mentioned Silky Oaks Lodge, Ryna, and again, I think every time I start speaking, I feel like I think that this was my best memory, and then I go back and I think, no, maybe that experience was better. So it's really difficult to choose, and I'm going to stop saying the best memory, but definitely something I remember was at Spicer's Peak Lodge, and we were at the very top. And then in the morning, the weather was amazing, and somehow it doesn't happen very often with business trips, but we did have half a day or so. And with the sun shining down, we went out. We were on top of the mountain, from what I remember, and it was just green all around. And then you have this jacuzzi just in front of the lodge, and we got into that, and it was so amazing, really stunning to be able to look at the view and to enjoy that. So which brings me to this thing that there are so many such luxurious experiences also waiting
Yeah.
for people in
Absolutely, yeah.
Queensland, right? So if it's like a first timer also, or someone who's come back again and
Yeah.
again, there's so many different things that you can do.
Absolutely, yeah.
So just like Silky Oak, Spices Peak, are there other places that you would recommend that people shouldn't miss?
Absolutely. So there's obviously the luxury lodges of Australia, and Queensland has fair number of luxury lodges as part of that brand. So you've mentioned Silky Oak, Spices are one of them. You have Qualia, which is a very popular
Yes.
luxury lodge of Australia. You also have there's another brand called Northern Escape Collection, which has very exclusive resorts like Orpheus Island, again in the Great Barrier Reef, beautiful private island. There's Mount Mulligan Lodge, which is out in the outback. So that's another one. There's a new estate called the Beachmont Estate, which is in the scenic rim and close to Gold Coast. So there are a lot of experiences that you can do. And if you say, obviously have to have the budget to do those. But if you have a lesser budget and you still want to do some, barefoot luxury or, I would say eco luxury, there are other options like glamping options that you can look at, which I think they are beautiful luxury tents out in the wilderness. You have Nightfall in Gold Coast, which is absolutely stunning. You have Habitat Noosa, which is on the Noosa Everglades. There's Lady Elliot Island that has
Yes.
glamping on the beach.
Yes.
So there are lots of glamping options as well. So you can it's budget dependent, and you can pick and choose what you like. So,
Yeah, and Ryna, you said Lady Elliot Island, and then there's Lady Elliot Island, there's Fraser Island, there's
Exactly.
Tangalooma, there's Whitsundays, that's Fitzroy. I think how many islands in total? More than 900,
So we have
right?
900 islands.
Wow.
900 islands. It's kind of like
And this is
surreal,
one part
right?
of Australia,
Yeah,
which in
exactly.
itself is an island,
Exactly.
but different islands. And how easy is it to go to these islands, right? It's quite easy, isn't it?
It is very
beaches-
accessible. Yeah. So in fact, you can be like literally 45 minutes on a boat ride, and from Brisbane you can access Tangalooma Island Resort, which is a stunning island. It's the third largest sand island in the world. You can go up to Cairns and do a 45-minute boat ride out to Green Island. Then you have Fitzroy Island. There's another luxury lodge up in Cairns called Lizard Island. That's another beautiful property. But of course, that's a helicopter ride away. But it's very accessible. Like even if you're going to Hamilton or Hayman, you can land on Hamilton Island, take a flight from Sydney, Melbourne, Cairns, Brisbane, and literally land on the island. It's like probably the shortest runway that you will land on, which is quite cool. Lady Elliot Island, you can again land on the island, which is an experience in itself, I would say. So yeah, it's very accessible. Like it's not.
It's very
difficult to get to,
accessible,
yeah.
and I think that has to be on the bucket list
Correct.
to be able to go and stay on
Stay
one
there.
of the islands
Absolutely.
and the beaches in Queensland, because you cannot come back from Queensland without that for
I
sure,
agree,
right?
I agree.
I think 100% that is something you should do. But Ryna, as we are speaking about different things to do in Queensland, if I'm going out with friends and family, and I know that Cairns has the whole esplanade with pubs and bars and beaches, but very often we always think that things in Australia shut down really early. Is like the feeling we get. Is that true, or are there different places that you can go and party late in the night?
Yeah, there are. So actually, even I had that impression, of course, before, and it did happen. Like they
Yeah.
used to shut pretty early. But when I was, in
Which is good
Brisbane-
if you have a hot air
Yeah,
balloon to do the next
exactly.
day. Then you
But you
want
have
to
to
be
wrap
in
up
bed
early.
by like 9 or
Exactly.
10 and then wake up early
Exactly.
next day. But there are
Yeah.
times that you're out with, other
friends,
friends.
and you want to chill, and you're
just
on
wanna chill.
holiday. You don't
Yeah,
want to sleep
exactly,
early, right?
Exactly.
So in fact, when I was in Brisbane in November, it was insane. Like Howard Smith Wharves was packed. Every restaurant on there was packed, and we were there till around 12 o'clock in the night. So it was open. It was a weekday, so it was not even a weekend, but it was buzzing. So I can tell you that it depends from place to place, of course.
yeah.
So Cairns, the Esplanade would have bars that are open
Yeah.
till late. Brisbane, obviously, in the certain areas like Fortitude Valley would have late night, bars that are open till late. Howard Smith Wharves is another area. Gold Coast is a party destination, obviously. So you have Cali Beach Club, this beautiful beach club that has opened up in Gold Coast now, right in the heart of Surfers Paradise,
Wow.
open till 1 in the morning. Pink Flamingo, there's another club, it's a Spiegel club that's there, so that's also open till late. Other clubs like rooftop bars, they are open till late now, so it's not like everything shuts anymore at 9 at night.
I think a little bit of research would go a long way.
Yes.
So you need to know
Yeah.
exactly what you're
Where
doing.
to
And
go, what to
I think another way to look at it is, along with a resort, always add in a city and be able to have that nightlife in the
Yeah.
city and then enjoy your
good
me
mix.
time and
Yeah,
a good
yeah,
mix
yeah,
of things to
yeah.
do here. I remember, Raina, the last time we spoke of Brisbane, you also mentioned something about a food trail or a food
Yes.
tour, right?
Yeah.
So that's
So
also, I mean, Australia itself is known for MasterChef
yeah.
and
Yeah.
all the amazing food that you could think of. But a food tour, wow, that would be fun.
Yeah, so actually, not there's one in Brisbane that's called Delectable Food Tours, and there's one also up in Sunshine Coast called Tasty Trails that's just come up. There's one in Gold Coast called Pineapple Tours. So there are a lot of
Wow.
these food,
Wow.
tours that you can do, day trips. They take you out for like say 4 hours. They not just food; it's also wineries. There's you can do distillery tours. You can do beer or just go out to craft breweries and all discover local alcohol basically, which is really cool. And people want to do these nowadays. Like they are happy even if they're not maybe major wine drinkers back here or major beer drinkers back here. They still want to go and explore and see what this is all about. You can do a cocktail cruise as well in Brisbane, which is
Wow.
really cool. And I was like, okay, how does that happen? But you can do a bar hopping tour on a cruise, like, which is really cool.
Okay,
Yeah. So
that
River to
really
Bay
sounds
does
cool.
that. Yeah. So, and it's great because, the youth loves it. Like people just, they want to party at the end of the day when, they're traveling with a bunch of friends, they want to explore and do fun things. And the ones who love their food want to go on these food trails and find places that are really, secrets or, nobody else knows about. So they actually do these really nice experiences as well, but are catered to you and your tastes.
Wow, that
Yeah.
sounds
And even for
amazing.
vegetarians, yeah. So not just
Yeah.
for non-vegetarians, it's also for
And we all
vegetarians.
know
Yeah.
that the produce used in
It's
Australia is really
fantastic.
good. It's
Yeah.
fantastic, and
So delicious.
they do use a lot of the indigenous spices
Yes.
and herbs as
Yes.
well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we had that cooking class with Tourism Australia once when they had
Yeah.
sent these things home, and we were trying to make sense of what was there, and
Yeah.
it really adds that interesting
Yeah.
flavor. So I would say, try something local for sure.
Absolutely.
Raina, you've given us so many things to do there that I
Still so
think
much more.
1 week is not
Yeah.
sounding enough even
No.
for Queensland. I mean, forget Australia,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
just for Queensland. But like you mentioned, choose what you want to do,
Yes.
plan it, and
Yeah.
then, with a longer visa, of course,
Yeah. Yes.
repeat
You come
travel
back.
becomes
Yeah. Yeah.
easier
That's an
because
option.
once
Yeah.
you're there, you can't
Yeah.
not want to go back there for sure. Raina, the last time I was in Queensland was about more than 6 years back, so I'm really looking forward to coming there and trying out new things. But, as we come to the end of the episode, what's new? Is there something new coming up in Queensland? What should people look forward to? So we've been speaking of the
Yeah.
first time,
Yeah.
but there's so many people like us, like me, who must have been to Queensland long back. And
Yeah.
you did
Yeah.
mention in the early
Yeah.
episode that someone comes as a young
Yes.
child and then
Correct.
wants to come back again.
Yeah.
So for repeat travelers, is there anything new that they can look forward to in Queensland?
Yeah, so firstly, we actually have like 42 new experiences that you can
Wow.
do in Queensland in this year,
Oh my God,
really. So
wow.
there's so much of new experiences. Tasty Trails is one of them that's new.
Yeah.
There are lots of new properties that have opened up as well. So we have the Langham on the Gold Coast, which is now the luxurious hotel
Luxury,
to be
yeah.
staying at. We have the Dorset, which is also on the Gold Coast, which opened last year. So there are lots of new accommodation options. There's obviously experiences, like I mentioned, the vintage picnic is something that you can try out new. There's so many other adventure activities. There's jet ski safaris that you can do. There's obviously in terms of the Museum of Underwater Art as well that I had mentioned on my last podcast. That's another very new experience and a new region to look out for. Definitely on a second or third trip, I would say. But explore the islands. Definitely go to the Lady Elliot, which is the last island of the Great Barrier Reef.
There's definitely an
Stunning,
island you
yeah.
haven't been
Yeah.
to earlier with 900 islands. Yeah.
There's so many islands experiences to do, and just keep an eye out because there's always new products coming in, and you can add to.
And you
your
know
bucket
what?
list.
Sometimes I like doing the same
Yeah.
things that I've done on my earlier trip because now the pressure of it being new or having to see it is not there
Yeah,
anymore. And I feel like sometimes I
experience
enjoy the
it
same thing a
properly.
little
Yeah,
bit more
yeah,
because
yeah,
you
true.
really sink into the feeling and you just feel things rather than just see and get away with that. So,
And
yeah.
people like to sometimes go back to the same property they've stayed at before
Yes,
as well. They
it's
like
just
that
so much
familiarity.
comfort, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they probably want to come back sometimes just for that property. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
that also
Yeah, yeah,
there.
yeah,
So that's
that also
very
happens,
like a qualia would probably be
Yeah.
experience like that. So yeah, so
Yeah, and I
lots
can
of
vouch
new
for
things.
that. For 100%, the Whitsundays, Heyman
Yeah.
and Hamilton and Qualia
Yeah,
is something that you would
absolutely
want to keep
stunning.
coming back to. Spices Peak Lodge is again another place that I think I would really like to. And I've never spent so much time in Brisbane actually because it's always been transit. Come into Brisbane and go to Gold Coast.
Yeah.
But with so many things to do there. I think
Yeah.
for sure next time round I'm going to plan a longer
Please
stay in
do,
Brisbane and
please do.
then move on to
Yeah.
discover the rest of
Yeah.
Queensland from
Yeah.
there. So that was Queensland, everyone. And Ryna, thank you so much for being here. But before we close for today, is there anything else you want to say?
I would just like to say that definitely space your trips out. Okay, have that time to savor the destination. Okay, take some time out. Don't go for a hardcore action-packed itinerary. Just spend more time in a destination. I think breathe, enjoy your holiday, and you will come back a different person if you actually experience the destination in the real way. So, yeah.
Well said, Raina. And that is absolutely true. To borrow a tagline from Queensland.com, come as you are and leave a
Leave
little
different,
different.
yeah.
And definitely that's going to happen with so many experiences to do in Queensland. You're going to be planning not just the first trip, but the first, second, third trip for sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
So thank you everyone for listening in, and we'll be
you.
back again on Travel Explore Celebrate Live. But Raina, thank you once again, Miss Queensland, as we like to call you.
Thank you, Sunila.
With over 50 trips and wanting more
and
and
more.
finding newer things to do. I mean, there's so many things you haven't done.
yeah.
So obviously, the rest of us have a long
Long
way to
bucket
go
list.
till we really discover all of Queensland. But thank you so much, and thank you everyone. Keep listening to Travel Explore Celebrate Life. See you again. Bye bye.
Thank you, Sunila.